Hi, and welcome to Hill Ponton's VA Disability blog. Today, we're going to be talking about all things Agent Orange. Now, yes, we're going to cover the basics regarding what it is, who can qualify, and different conditions associated with. But more importantly, we're going to get into some real specifics, things that you've probably heard about, but need to know more about, blue water versus brown water versus boots on the ground, the Agent Orange registry, health benefits you can qualify for, how your children can get benefits, and topics that affect them. So we hope that you'll join us for this multi-part series. Hi, and welcome back to Hill Ponton's VA Disability blog. I'm Natalia Joffrey, the company COO.
And I'm attorney Rachel Cheek.
And as promised, we're going to talk today about VA benefits as they relate to Agent Orange. So, Rachel, I know we've talked a little bit about this before, but we want to cover the basics first and then get into more nitty-gritty stuff. First and foremost, what is Agent Orange?
So, Agent Orange, which is something you probably heard a lot about, is at its core what it is it's an herbicide. It's a highly toxic chemical that was used to defoliate plants, trees, that kind of thing throughout Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War period.
And who invented it? Who?
So, Agent Orange was developed by several different chemical companies for the use of using it in combat operations. So, some of those that may sound familiar is Monsanto or Dow Chemical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely familiar with
Hmm.
both of those,
Yeah.
unfortunately, for not very good reasons. Were there other chemicals or similar products used other than Agent Orange?
Yes, so there's a whole rainbow of chemicals used. So you have Agent Orange, which is the most commonly known one. You also had Agent Blue, Agent Green, Agent Pink. I mean, I'm not using rainbow as
Yeah.
just saying it. That's
Wow,
what
it
they were
really
called.
was. Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Now with that rainbow, the most awful rainbow in the universe, by the way, with that rainbow of differences, are those other benefits, are those other chemicals also, do they fall under the presumptive umbrella where you can get benefits automatically like you do with Agent Orange?
So, the way that the law is written is it covers benefits for veterans who are presumed to be exposed to herbicides, not necessarily Agent Orange in particular, although that is the most common one, and that's generally the one that you're going to find reference to. But any herbicides that were used during the Vietnam period would be covered by the presumption.
Okay. So since we're talking about the presumption, who falls under the umbrella of presumption when it comes to this type of claim?
So, for any veteran who served anywhere in Vietnam during the Vietnam War period, which is going to be January 1962 to May 1975, is going to be presumed to have been exposed to Agent Orange or one of these other herbicides. So, would you like me to give the subcategories?
Please do. When did this? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, as we're going to be talking about the laws and regulations around Agent Orange have changed throughout the years. So, for a long time, it was could only be eligible for these presumptions if you could show that you were boots on the ground in
Hmm.
Vietnam. So that would be someone who either flew into Da Nang and or you were stationed at one of the you were stationed in Vietnam. You had business going in and out. You may have also Navy veterans were eligible if they could show that they had served on the inland waterways, so like the riverways of Vietnam. Now you would have to show that you were physically on foot on the land, and there was no time requirement for how long that had to be. That could be, I've had some cases where one of the veterans he showed boots on the ground because at one point his ship docked in one of the Vietnamese harbors, and he had to get off the ship to go deliver a message. And just that brief period of exposure, that was enough for him to get the presumption.
Regarding the presumption, when did this become official?
So these two categories that I've talked about, the brown water veterans and the boots on the ground veterans, that became official in 1991. There was
Mhm.
an act that made the presumption into law. So there's a third group that we haven't discussed yet, and that would be the blue water Navy. So this is gonna be for veterans who served during that period in the Vietnam War. They may not have actually had boots on the ground, but they
Hmm.
were in ships stationed at least within the 12 nautical miles of the Vietnamese shoreline. So this has been an ongoing battle for veterans to show that although, okay, yeah, they didn't have their boots on the ground, they were still exposed to Agent Orange because you have to think about it. When you're on those ships, you're not bathing in salt water, you're getting water from the
Right.
hookers, you're bathing in it, you're drinking in it, you're still exposed to whatever toxic chemicals could be in the groundwater. Where does that flow? All out to sea. So it was a long, long fight to get the VA to recognize that Navy veterans should be entitled to these presumption as well. And in 2019, there was a big court case that finally established that veterans who served within the 12 nautical miles of Vietnam didn't have to show that they had boots on the ground. They just had to show that they were within that range.
Hmm.
That those 12 miles. That was also codified into law with the Blue Water Navy Act of 2019.
So just to summarize, brown water, presumptive; boots
Mhm,
on the ground, presumptive;
mhm.
blue water, now presumptive as of 2019.
Yes.
So, because that is so recent, is it possible that veterans that were previously denied benefits should now reapply or appeal, or maybe people that were previously turned down really now they qualify under this new presumption?
Yes, absolutely. I've seen several cases like that come through.
Hmm.
That's
And
something I would
how
suggest.
and since because like you said, this has progressed, so I have met several veterans who've told me, they got benefits back in the 80s. And even the way are treated, it's changed so much. I've been with the firm for a very long time, and I can even see the evolution, not within our own office, but within, society, and even the manner in the which that they're treated. It has evolved for the better. And so, where I'm going with this question is it possible that you were maybe given a low rating in 80, or you were maybe even denied? And I say 80 as an example, but now fast forward and maybe there's something more you can qualify for, maybe an increased rating, or maybe benefits that you were denied before you can qualify for now?
Yes, that's right. And the biggest one I would say is if you were applied for service connection before, and you were maybe a Vietnamese Navy vet, or sorry, Vietnam War Navy vet who may be Vietnamese. Hey, um, then yes, I would suggest going ahead to refile, because where the laws just were not in place before to establish that presumptive service connection. There were a lot more hoops that you would have to jump through, that sometimes you know the things that you may be asked to prove are not things that you might have records for. How are you going to know if, the exact concentration of the water that you bathed in may have had some Agent Orange in it? No, you can't know that. And that's why the presumptions are there.
Okay, great. So we will wrap this up with different conditions. Can you give us an idea of several conditions that are associated with Agent Orange exposure?
Well, I don't think we would need a whole nother video for me to go through all the conditions that are associated, but I can go through the presumptive conditions with you.
That would be great. Yes.
We've learned in the course of practice that just this list that I'm about to rattle off, that is far from the only conditions that Agent Orange causes. But these are the ones that are presumptive. And what that means is all you have to
Mhm.
do is show that either you were exposed to herbicides, or that you can show that you were one of these in these presumptive categories where you are just presumed to have been exposed, and you come down with one of these conditions. You don't have to show a nexus. You don't have to show, have a doctor saying, well, Mr. Smith was exposed to herbicides and herbicides caused this. No, if you have these conditions and you can show that you were exposed, that's all you've got to do. So I'm not a doctor, I'm a lawyer, so I may be pronouncing some of these wrong, but trust
We'll
me, no
take
matter
it.
how it's pronounced, as long as you spell it right on your claim. Yes, exactly. So some of these that I'm going to go through is one of the conditions is AL amyloidosis, chronic B cell leukemia, diabetes type 2, Hodgkin's disease, ischemic heart disease, and that covers a lot of heart disease. That covers pretty much I wouldn't say all heart conditions, but a great many heart conditions are covered under that ischemic heart disease umbrella. Multiple myeloma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's disease, prostate cancer, respiratory cancers, and soft tissue sarcomas. But wait, there's
Mhm.
more. There are three conditions that are on the list that are presumed to have been caused by Agent Orange exposure. But for right now, if you want the presumptions, you have to show that these occurred within 1 year of the exposure or 1 year of your service. And that's going to be chloracne, which is a skin condition that appears to be like acne, but is caused by chemical exposure. Early onset peripheral neuropathy,
Mm.
and I'm not going to say this one right, Porphyria cutanea tarda.
So, Rachel, I know that you wanted to mention a couple of other groups. So we covered blue water, brown water, boots on the ground. Anyone else that could qualify for benefits as a result of Agent Orange exposure?
Yeah, so there's two other groups that are potentially eligible for the Agent Orange exposure presumptions, and that's going to be veterans who served on the Korean DMZ between September 1967 and August 1971. Agent Orange was used to defoliate and clear the border there of the DMZ.
Hmm.
And also, any Air Force veterans who regularly worked on C 123 aircraft that were used to spray Agent Orange in Vietnam.
Mm.
So, this is the type of aircraft that was the C 123 planes were used to just do the spraying. But obviously, the planes, once the military's done with them, done with the war, doesn't just they don't just leave the planes there. They come back and they need to be worked on, and they were still in circulation for a while. So some Air Force veterans who never went to Vietnam at all, because they spent so much time in close contact maintaining these planes or working with them, they may have been exposed to Agent Orange just based on the residue that was left on those planes.
Oh, okay, very interesting.
Mhm.
I'm so glad that you mentioned those groups. I would have never thought about that. And I'm sure that maybe some veterans wouldn't have thought about it
Mhm.
either because they've probably been denied before. It's check the box, were you in Vietnam in, and they're no, and then they think they don't qualify for benefits. So
Exactly.
that's great. All right. Well, we're going to continue this series. We're going to talk some more about different conditions, and then we're going to get into other important information regarding a registry you can join and kids benefits and things like that. But for now, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to visit our website or call our office, and we hope you'll join us again.